Hello, hello, and good morning. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm so happy it is Friday. I'm very tired, Ted. And I'm having bad hair day.
Parenthood will do that.
Parenthood does do that. I don't know if they warn people enough.
If they did, no one would have kids. So that's the problem.
That's probably true. And also, given that the whole Western world is facing population collapse in like what would be 2 generations. If we had kids, then it would be a generation, but we're not. So, somewhere in the next 50 years could be a problem. But yeah, it's pretty damn exhausting. And it gives you bad hair day. I'm just saying, women.
Well, which is the one
ladies.
thing no one needs.
Bad hair day. Like this is this whole thing right here. I'm Manila Chan with a bad hair day. That's Ted Rawl over there in New York City.
Always with a good hair day.
Always.
Don't laugh.
Oh, you are watching the Ted Manila Information Show, or TMI for short, because we do give you too much information. And some of it, you just probably want to cover your ears. You may not want to hear about it. It could be poop topics, fetish
That happened
topics.
yesterday. Yeah.
It really did. It all really just happened. It could be bad hair topics. I mean, seriously.
I'm an expert on bad hair.
And Ted's an F-bomb expert, so this is your warning. Mm-hmm. This is your warning. We are live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, so please be sure to like and follow the show wherever you're consuming this broadcast. If you're on Rumble, if you're on YouTube, please help us grow by hitting that like button, because it goes a very long way in telling the algorithm that this show is on demand, that you guys want it. So come on, hit that like button. If you're watching, you haven't done it, come on, hit that like button.
You know you want to. You know you do. Come on, do it. Come on, big boy.
Thumbs up.
Do it.
Why does every morning devolve into some weird, like, fetishy innuendo?
I don't know. I blame Clovis, who like really just a minute before we went on, maybe 30 seconds, I hear this bloop. I'm like, why is there a bloop coming from my other room where my laptop is? And a bloop. And I'm like, I go in there and like, I set up, I have the DMZ, the feeds up for the DMZ podcast, which I'm doing at 12 noon Eastern with Scott Stantis. And it's all set up. And there's Clovis walking all over the keyboards.
Bloop, bloop, bloop. Bloop. Oh.
And I'm like, I see. Okay, that's how it is.
That's funny.
It's cute, but annoying.
It's cute.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Like parenting.
Yes, very cute and also very annoying and very exhausting. Cats less exhausting, I think. Dogs also less. Pets less exhausting.
Yes.
So on today's show, we're going to be talking about the main topic being that you are unfired. That's part of like literally the chaos that's happening here. I mean, I have a front row seat to all of this stuff happening, Ted. It is complete chaos here in DC. If we didn't think it was chaos a week ago or 10 days ago when all the layoffs started happening, now with the judge, a federal judge, overturning Doge's proclamations. I'm going to go ahead and call it a proclamation because it's King Elon. It's kind of, I don't know if that means, I don't know what that means, actually. I mean, we'll suss it out towards the end. And also breaking news, literally just moments ago, Donald Trump has signed another executive order proclaiming English as the official language.
Oh, he did that. I knew he was going to do it. I didn't know he had done it.
So, Ted, congratulations. We're ahead of the curve. We're speaking the official language of the United States.
Which is my second language, by the way. So, yeah.
Is it your second, though? Dual. How can you know which one was your first?
Oh, I know because I only learned it when I was 4 or 5 years old. My mom, I think I may have told this story here before. If I have, forgive me. And what happened was that my mom taught me French at home, and then she sent me to I guess it was pre-K, so maybe I was 3 or 4, it was kindergarten. It was kindergarten. And they said
you've been 4 or 5.
And they called her up. And this was Ohio in the late 60s. Oh. Okay. So I mean, this was white bread as hell. Okay.
Americana as hell.
Total Americana, very like stick up ass, very like ordinary folk, right?
So you're saying Vivek Ramaswamy can't win there? as governor.
Right. No, well, not if he goes back to that time period. I would say even if he stays in 2025, he cannot win there. But anyway, they called and said, they're like, well, WTF?
What's wrong with your kid?
What's wrong with your retard kid? Like he doesn't speak the language.
Is he a mute? What is this?
And my mom said, isn't that your job?
Oh.
And so, yeah.
Well,
and then my mom was like,
I don't know.
Oh man, they gave her a talking to, and she conceded that she told me, she's like, all right, I'm gonna have to teach you English.
Well,
so she taught me, and this is, I think, important.
Dual language from the start, I would say.
She taught me from the news, from reading. She taught me how to read from the newspaper. And by watching the news. Now, bear in mind, it was like 1968, right? So, Columbia University has been taken over by radicals. MLK's being gunned down. RFK's been killed. The Tet Offensive is raging in Vietnam. Everybody's being assassinated. There's riots in race riots all over the country. The country is being ripped apart.
So that's what's wrong with
Nixon, you. Nixon-Humphrey, election. So 1968 is the most chaotic year in, for sure, 100 years in American history. So of course, I got the political bug that way. I always think if I was from this happened in 1957, I would have gone into something completely different,
That's true.
Or 1977.
That shaped, so your mode of learning English in that particular time frame. For me, it's I remember being in pre-K. So I had 2 years of pre-K because my mom, I remember she used to take me to the pre-K. I think they call it pre-K 1 now. So I went to that first pre-K as she was doing an ESL class. So it was like half day pre-K for me. And I was already speaking English because I used to translate for my mom. I was verbal and
I'm sure you were
very early.
That does not come as a shock to me.
Yeah. So it happened very early. And I was literally a child translator for my family. So
that's cute.
So, and here's little teeny tiny pint sized little Manila, ordering food or, taking a phone call from the electricity company or whatever. But I always remembered speaking English and Lao, and they were trying to teach me where they could with some of the elders, Cantonese. Because some of the viewers, by the way, while we're on this topic, they weren't sure what my ethnicity was. And I always say over and over that I'm Lao, but ethnically Lao, Mongolian, Chinese. And the Chinese part is Southern Chinese. Southern Chinese. So it's like Yunnan province. And so they speak Cantonese in that area. The Yunnan province is
and they eat area. Anything.
And anything. That's where it touches Laos. Mm-hmm. So that's that region that, arbitrarily gets carved up and, okay, you're China and this part's Thailand and this part's Laos. But generally speaking, that area was originally Cantonese.
Were those divisions written up by French cartographers, or how did that happen?
Yes, your people, Ted.
Yeah.
When they decided to abandon, in the early 1900s.
Well, so that's to your advantage to be abandoned, really.
Well, so that's how that happened. But yeah, that's the ethnic background. So they were trying to teach me. And on top of it, French, Ted, because my dad, because of the French colonization, the French didn't truly leave Laos until the 1960s, early 1962, I think.
I think that's right. Yeah, right. Because they were getting their butts kicked next door in what was then Indochina, right? They
drew the maps of that area, right? But they still remained in Laos. So my family also spoke French. And so they were trying to teach me French and Cantonese, and fluently at home, we were speaking Lao and English. So it was when I was very small.
That's not impossible in much of the world. It's not unusual. Like in Afghanistan, the average person speaks 7 languages.
Wow.
And
dialects or languages.
We think they're dumb. They speak I know. They'll typically speak Pashtun, Dari, those in English for sure, and then throw in some
Wow.
Hazara, maybe Uzbek, Tajik. Although Tajik and
Wow.
Dari are very similar. Maybe it's and maybe maybe some Turkmen also. It's because
Wow.
you kind of need to, because you're trading with all these people.
That's right.
From all over, and everybody. It's not, you don't have a unified Afghan language, so
That's right.
you just have to speak. If you want to get around, and it probably helps with like Afghan Tinder too.
Well, yeah, so that's my story about how I was multilingual. Like I can speak Thai because there's enough overlap between Lao and Thai that I can speak it. For whatever reason, Lao people can speak Thai, but Thai people cannot speak Lao. And
Really?
then there's some overlap. Yeah, there's some overlap between Lao with a little bit of Mandarin and a lot with Cantonese. There's because there's I'm a fluent speaker, but not let's say in the way a high school student would speak the language, and not in a sophisticated manner.
Yeah, that's like my French. I think we've
Yeah.
talked about this before too. Like
Yeah.
I think like if I have to go, well, like when I opened a bank,
I don't know all
in
the
France,
words,
and they're
Ted.
asking me,
All the words.
imagine if you just imagine if you go to open a bank account here, and they're like, or like a stock trading account, like, oh, would you like an index fund, or would you like are you looking for
In French,
long-term
yeah.
returns or aggressive mutual fund? This is all jargon that, like, even if you speak English really fluently, if you haven't lived here for a long time, you're just not going to get it. You could live here really, like, I think my mom probably never would have really understood most of that
You
stuff.
could be a native speaker and not still know the jargon.
So that's like that stuff I'm out. Like, or if they're talking about like the like various, I mean, like in France, they change political party names all the time. There's always new parties, old parties.
Why don't we do that
parties
here?
that didn't used to exist.
Why don't we do that here? How come we don't have that?
Our system blows.
Yeah,
I mean,
it does.
the two-party system is just, I can't believe that Americans who are such consumers, that's our whole thing, right? We're consumerists, right? We walk into the grocery store and we take pride in the fact that there's 50 different kinds of dishwashing liquid. And like,
right.
But we're okay. A country of over 330 million people is okay with two political parties. I mean, even if they were both great, which is certainly not true, it's like, that's still not enough. It's not nearly enough. 10's not enough. I don't get it, really, why we're so satisfied with this garbage.
But Ted, that's also why we're basically a monolinguistic society, right? Like this is why Trump just signed this EO to make it, a thing.
I don't know if
really law.
I don't know if he can. I mean, he can certainly make the U.S. I think he can certainly make the federal government, do all signs in English, no bilingual anything.
Yeah, well,
like forms, all forms will be in English
gets
only.
Dicey. I don't like that.
That's going to be a problem for Spanish speakers. There's a lot
I
of them.
don't like that. Yeah, I think it's been such a great thing that we've expanded languages on government papers, and it's not about being inclusive. I'm not saying that. It's
not
for
that there's
practical
anything wrong with
purposes. It's practical to have multiple languages. But now, if he's making it the official language of the United States,
I mean, look, it's also like really, like, talk about like an unnecessary declaration. I mean, there's no question that English is the dominant language of the United States. No one questions that. Even the most woke, left-wing, progressive people, do not. No one thinks that English is not our lingua franca. It just is. And I think it's like saying, like, it's like declaring air the official gas of humanity. It's like air. It's what we breathe. A message from the American Air Council.
Like, that's
It's like air. I love it, man. Every day I get up and I have me some air. Breathe it in.
Freedom. Smell that freedom air,
Trademark.
Ted. Yeah. I like it. Anyway, that was just like the breaking stuff, and also we should mention the Gene Hackman thing.
Oh yeah.
Quick update.
Oh my God, we were both wrong.
No, we're not. No.
For everything.
We're not. We're still not wrong, because they say carbon monoxide could be the possibility, because they believe the couple had been dead for at least a few days. And if there was a carbon monoxide leak, that it could have dissipated by the time people got to them. And as soon as you open the doors and windows, it just out. So they've been dead for a few days.
Oh, wait. Well, okay. I mean, Manila, that's... Okay, I'm revoking your amateur detective card. I mean,
no.
Okay, so they found... Okay, yes, they've been dead for a couple of weeks, right? And let's just say in New Mexico at this time of the year, it's warm. The bodies are bloated. Things are gross. I'm sure it was very smelly and disgusting when they got in there.
It's not.
As Nick Lowe famously sang about Mary Provost, the cops threw up all everywhere when they broke into her loneliness. But you know, the thing is, they found signs that Gene Hackman had collapsed.
Yes.
And they found her with pills all over the place, right? And the dog was dead in the closet. So here's what Detective Rawl, who was wrong yesterday, so don't listen to anything I have to say, but this is my current working theory. My current working theory is this is murder-suicide. She poisoned the dog. She poisoned Gene Hackman's food. There's
no motive.
Yeah, there is. I mean, he's old as hell. He's old as shit. She was tired of taking care of him. So either this was one of two things. Either she was like, she's cranky younger wife, 63. He's 95. She's like, oh my God, this is just untenable. He's senile. He's yucky. Like, I'm out, right? So she either, or he's like, I can't take it anymore. I need to Ernest Hemingway my way out of this. Help me out, honey. I love you. And so they either agreed on it. So I don't know whether this was something that, I think she probably plotted it and murdered him. Here's why I think that. First of all, he collapsed. If it had been like, we're gonna go out like Eva Braun and Adolf Hitler, that would have been like, they would have discussed it before, and he wouldn't have collapsed. He'd be on his bed or on the sofa, waiting for the things to take effect. He was obviously walking around when suddenly it hit and he fell, right? Why would you be walking around if you knew it was happening? So the fact that he was standing and fell indicates that he did not know he was going to die or that he'd been poisoned. Then overdosed. So there was food that he ate. The dog got into the food because he didn't eat it all. And the dog got poisoned, and then, as dogs do, went and found like a dark place to die when they feel sick. And then she finished herself off with the pills. Now, what I don't know is whether she planned in advance to do that, or the horror of it struck her when she saw Gene dead and she couldn't stand it. And she's like, I can't live if living is without you. I can't live anymore. Or whatever. But the point is, she offed herself. I'm sure that's what happened. Now,
too many unknowns.
Is there a note? If she planned this all out and it was with Gene, it was like, older couples sometimes do this. We've decided we're done, we're out. They write a note and they say, he has a daughter. It's like, hey, so listen, this is what happened. I've been diagnosed with fatal booger disease. I'm out. Stepmom is out. Bye. See ya. And so it's going to be, the question is, did they find a note? That information has not yet been released. But I'm going to say, my instinct is that she murderized him, and then
the dog was an innocent bystander.
I think the dog's an innocent bystander, and the reason I think that it happened,
the two other dogs are fine.
That's why I say that. If she had decided, like, oh, we're all out as a family, we're taking our dogs across the river Styx with us, because we're going to want our dogs in the afterlife, they would have taken all of them. But instead, it's just the one, right? Yeah. So obviously, the one got the greedy booger got into the food, into Gene's last meal, and then that was it. That's what happened. I mean, I'm not 100% sure.
I feel like that could be a possibility.
More than 50% sure. What do you think?
I feel like that could definitely be it's plausible.
But what's the most plausible is the question, right? Was it Occam's razor? Occam's razor?
Occam's razor.
Occam. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't OCC, I think it's how, but for me, I still think there's a possibility of carbon monoxide, slip and falls for both, and just it depends on who preceded who to the other side, right? So if she died first and he was like on his way out to go try to seek help or whatever, right? Because he was in the mudroom by the back door with his glasses fallen and his cane is near him, and he slipped and fell too. It could be a case of horrible.
I mean, that's possible. That could have happened too. Although just seems.
And her pills on the floor, and the dog comes and.
Well, the pills on the floor indicates to me that she's the last one to go.
Well, to me, the fact that she was in the bathroom and the pills are scattered on the counter and on the floor, and the space heater was found like real close to her head, indicates to me that there was a slip and fall.
That's possible.
Do you know, Ted? Do you know like I don't know the actual number off the top of my head, but do you know statistically how? I mean, you slipped and fell in the bathroom.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
How? And you're young and healthy, right?
Bathrooms are dangerous. I mean,
she's young and
bathrooms have lots of sharp edges. There's slippery floors. It's wet. So yeah,
it's very possible that, and the dog just somehow
bathrooms should actually be completely redesigned, right? I mean,
it's carpeted.
One time when my kid and I were at a hotel in DC, actually, we were at the Westin. I'll name names. And they had like and I left him. He was a toddler. He was standing in the bathroom for like for like, I don't know, one of those things. I only left him alone for 10 seconds, but it was true. And he bam, and smacked the back of his head, and it was hard marble floor. And I'm like, bathrooms shouldn't have. I know it's easier to clean. It's like old folks' homes. It's hospitals. They have hard floors. It's easier to clean. Fuck that. Like all of these places, they should all be full of like spongy, soft material,
like a dance studio or a yoga studio.
Yeah, or like a funny farm room, like the rubber room. Everything's the side of the like it should be rubber on the side of the sink. Everything should be soft. And
it should be like baby proofed. I baby proofed like my whole house, right?
Well,
so
it's hard, but I mean,
it's hard.
Honestly, like it's one of those things. It's like. Why did Romans use lead to line their pipes? How stupid were they? That's how this is going to look. Like, people used to smoke cigarettes. Okay. Like, why?
Well, we'll see. We got to wait for the Gene Hackman stuff. But I just think Holly, with the Academy Awards coming up this weekend, everyone's like buzzing about that. How sad. I mean, but at 95, whatever the case, for her, that's a short
good life. He didn't have a good death.
Right. For him, 95, that's a long life. I mean, what a terrible way to go out. But, he's got this amazing story behind him, and, God bless. But anyway, we should definitely get to headlines, because this we've, talked about both. We've talked about two stories that we didn't mean to talk about.
Let's do it. By the way, producer Robbie's asking us to put in a PSA. The rerun and the RSS feed for the audio are going to be a little late today because Robbie has some other stuff going on work-wise, but
like a real job.
They are going to come up, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So with that, we'll get to the actual headlines that we meant to talk about, but this is, I mean, this stuff just literally popped up right before we went on air. That now, they say it warrants further investigation into the Hackman family. What happened on their compound.
And they're investigating now for sure. This is the kind of thing. There are times when I think, I would not have enjoyed being like a patrolman, but I think police detective would have been a fun job for me. I think I would have liked trying to figure out what's going on.
Too gory. All right, with that, let's get to the news.
Trump will host Zelensky today in D.C., and the pair is expected to sign that deal granting the U.S. access to rare earth and minerals in Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky's delegation will sign that economic agreement, which is supposed to finance the reconstruction of war-damaged Ukraine, which would obviously tie the U.S. and Ukraine together economically. The deal is viewed as a step toward ending the 3-year-old war. and it references the importance of the security, but that's going to be in a separate side agreement that will be discussed later today, probably. The meeting caps a week of frantic international diplomacy centered on a string of unsettling comments from Trump. Trump upended years of policy on Ukraine a couple of weeks ago when he talked to Putin and started talks on ending the war, but didn't invite Zelensky. He also kind of annoyed Zelensky by calling him a dictator without elections and blaming Ukraine for the war. But now Emmanuel Macron of France and Keir Starmer of the UK met with him, so things have softened a little bit. With Starmer at his side yesterday, Trump talked about Zelensky, and he said, I have a lot of respect for him. We're going to get along really well.
Oh,
Trump also appeared to backtrack on the dictator broadside. Did I say that? I can't believe I said that, Trump responded when asked about the Zelensky comment by journalists. So, I have a question for you. I mean, and this is kind of important, or, it's like logical. I mean, what's in this agreement for Zelensky? Why is he signing? What does Ukraine get out of it? Like nothing, right?
He doesn't get Gene Hackman.
Well, he certainly doesn't get, no one gets Gene Hackman, but or even Gene Hackman's dog. Well, there's the other two, there's the spare dogs. But,
yeah.
But what, I mean, really, truly, why would he just sort of not just say, thank you very much for this agreement. I'm going to have my lawyers take a look at it for maybe 6 or 7 years. And when they're done, then I'll get back to you. I mean, just ignore it. Like why? I mean, I'm not a fan of Zelensky. I do think that Ukraine provoked this war, but I mean, from the Ukrainian standpoint,
I don't know about the Ukrainians doing it. I think the U.S. did.
Okay, but they could have just told the U.S. to fuck off. But they did. But the point is,
he sold them out.
They have a role here. I mean, the Ukrainians have a role here.
Zelensky sold out his people.
Well, that's true, but you can't blame just one person. I mean, Adolf Hitler didn't kill those 6 million Jews. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't kill any of them. He ordered other
collaborators, of course. But...
Yeah. So anyway, my point is that it's just weird to me that like Zelensky would agree to it because he's not getting anything out of it. There's no security guarantees. It's kind of like
money.
Manila, sign this agreement that gives me half your stuff. Okay, Ted, what are you giving me? Nothing.
No, it's not my personal money. If I was, say, watching somebody, I'm in charge of somebody else's money.
Yeah, if you're giving me part of the Washington Mall.
That's right. And you're like, Manila, hey, so I know you are sitting on you're babysitting Fort Knox right now. All the guards are gone. Why don't you give me half of the gold bars in there?
But then what's in it for you?
And then behind closed doors, you're like, Manila, on paper, I'm saying I'm taking 50%, but I'm going to split my 50% with you.
Kickback scheme.
So I think that's more of what's going on. So I think there's got to be, we know this dude is a selfish little dude, right? We've seen money being blown. I mean, I don't know how there's no paper trail of this sneaky little bastard. Like, you don't suddenly go from a B-list TV actor to suddenly buying villas all around the world, including in Miami, right? And then flying your wife via private jet to go blow millions of dollars shopping along the Champs-Elysees, right? Like, that's not a cheap area to go hang out and shop, right? Like, so that doesn't just happen, and certainly not on a president's salary of any country. That doesn't happen. So
that's true.
So I think there's a lot of money being laundered.
Corruption is a given. I can't. That's not even a story. It's like it's just.
So that's why he's giving away Ukraine's minerals. I mean, he's looking for what's in it for him.
I guess it's like
his security, not his country.
Every time I think I'm breathtakingly cynical, I come to realize that there are people who are even more cynical than I am.
That would be me.
That would be you. And Zelensky.
Look, he doesn't care about his country. If he did, he would have never gotten his country roiled in this war to begin with.
That's true.
If he cared about his country, he listens to one radio station. And I learned this a million years ago when I worked at Clear Channel. They told me consumers only they listen to one radio station. You know what that is, Ted? WIIFM. What's in it for me? And that stuck with me forever. Like, God bless my old Clear Channel bosses. And that is true. People only listen to one radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me? And Zelensky only cares about Zelensky. Maybe his hot wife, maybe, I'm not sure. And I think he has two small children.
She's not that hot.
I think she's really pretty. She's a really pretty lady. She's very petite. Very tiny.
Nothing wrong with petite, but she's definitely
tiny.
But she's definitely yeah, it's funny though. This is kind
way
of
out of his league.
This would be a topic too. Like, you know how like men and women always have very different ideas of like clothes. Like there's like shoes that women wear, and the guys are like ew. Oh, you know what's a great dividing point with younger men and younger women? Younger women with the nose rings, with the nose like you know, like the bull, like the the septum ring, right?
Yeah.
Guys that age, right, who, you know, in their 20s, they hate them. They find them incredibly unattractive. And like basically, and women, they tell each other like, oh, that's so cool. It's so punk rock. And all the guys think of is like, you look like you have a booger in there, or, you know, or you look like a bull. I want to put a rope through you and like drag you out into the field and just so you can chew your cud.
Nothing.
And the point is, or like shoes
is objective.
And sort of like, it's so often like, you know, you'll see like women will say, oh, that like celebrity woman, she's really pretty. And guys will be like, or vice versa, you know?
Well, I mean, that's why we said it's a weird consensus around like Cheryl Hines.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, everybody. Yeah, well, that's why Elvis Presley was an interesting consensus, right? Because the famous quote was that, you know, girls wanted to fuck him and guys wanted to be him.
That's true.
And
that is true.
That's unusual.
That's very. And Cheryl Hines is one of those things that
like
women
guys don't really want to be Brad. Guys don't want to be Brad Pitt. Girls want to fuck him, but no, I've never heard any guy say, "Oh, I wish I looked like Brad Pitt." You know?
Yeah, a lot of guys. Yeah, that's true. But like in the case of Cheryl Hines, I think the vast majority of women think she's really pretty, and I think men also think she's really pretty. So
yeah, that's true. But it's also beyond pretty. It's also she looks like. Who knows if it's true? She could be a raging bitch, but she looks like she's funny and nice.
Yeah, she looks fun. So Olena, I think is her name. Zelensky is punching way above his weight class, and I think all he's trying to protect is his ass, her ass, and their children. That's it. He's going to hang out the rest of the country to dry. So it's not his gold bars. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, she looks a little bit like an AI. You know what she looks like? She looks like she would be a Soviet spy in like a 1990s thriller movie. You know what I mean?
Well, she just has there's an interesting look to her, but I do find her pretty, and he's not.
I mean, she's definitely not a Bowser, but.
No, but he's not, I don't find him. He punched above his. He
landed.
You
know what it is? It's what's interesting is she's pretty, but she's not sexy, which is also another phenomenon.
That's a weird phenomenon. Yeah, that's I don't know. But
and then there's the opposite too, which is even more interesting: sexy but not pretty.
Oh well, yeah, that's a you and Jamarl thing too. You guys like insane women, and you find that sexy.
But that's another phenomenon. But there's girls who are just kind of like objectively not really attractive physically. But they're hot as hell.
Elon's baby mama, Grimes.
Well, I'll tell you, Lauren Boebert. Well, she's part of the cray. She's part of the
insane.
She's part of the cray. Yeah.
She's nuts.
But she's also not really classically pretty either.
No, but she's.
But
she's got boobs out to here, and she dresses like that in Congress.
If she's coming over for like an assignation, you best be like. You best be telling all the neighbors to be out of town because things are going to get loud. Things are going to be broken.
Yeah, but Lauren Boebert might cut you also. Like in second, she could be passionately kissing you and the next moment stabbing you.
Yeah, it'll be like fucking a wolf or something. But yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So that's a weird phenomenon.
Might be the last thing you ever did, but you know, you wouldn't forget it. Yeah.
You men, I don't know.
Yeah.
Very strange.
I'm not denying that. All right, let's keep going. All right, so I guess it's my turn to keep going. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
So at least 60 people have died and more than 1,000 infected by some mystery disease in Northwestern Democratic Republic of Congo. That, according to the World Health Organization, or so we've read it in the news because we're no longer members, so we no longer get reports from the WHO. Because that was a brilliant move, Donald Trump. Symptoms of uncontrolled bleeding, vomiting, and diarrhea are very similar to Ebola. Pardon?
Bleeding from where, though?
Oh, God, the Ebola, you bled out of everything, and I do mean everything. And it also resembles the Marburg virus. However, these lab tests say that Ebola is not either one of those. Anyway, the outbreak began last month in the village of Boloko, where 3 small kids died within 2 days of eating a dead bat. Because that's
bats. Are we starting this bat shit again? Literally,
it's getting batty. 4 weeks later, 4 others died in a couple of days. The second outbreak began a couple of weeks later in Bomate. That's a village about 100 miles away. 45 people died there. 400 more were infected. No link has been discovered between the 2 villages. By the way, what's weird is that if all these other people have been infected, how do they test for it if they don't know what it is? But anyway, no link has been discovered between the 2 villages. The WHO is testing patients for a variety of potential causes, including typhoid and food poisoning. There was a similar unknown illness, later confirmed to be severe malaria in December. And we're dealing with a wave of Mpox cases, which used to be called monkeypox.
Yes.
And it's killed about 1,200 people since early 2024.
It's much hipper to get Mpox, Ted.
Mpox sounds like some sort of musical movement, like, oh man, I've been laying down some serious Mpox beats lately, which have killed 1,200 people since early 2024. Rwandan rebels, the M23, have captured several cities in the country's east, leading to the deaths of thousands and displacing hundreds of thousands of people. So they're having good times in Congo all the time. Yeah. By the way, there's a headline that we should talk about too, which is not a headline, which is today is that viral internet lefty anti-Trump consumer boycott thing. They want you to, if you're pissed at Trump and Musk, to not buy anything. So, don't go. And if you must buy something, they say, well, buy it from a small business, a small local business. But
except those don't exist because
you don't even know what they are.
Everything.
Yeah, like your little local deli might be easily part of an international conglomerate. But anyway, so I was
go eat at Gutfeld's and not Denny's.
I would not expect I do not expect this to make a splash because. And it really drives me crazy. I have people on social saying, okay, Ted, Mr. Naysayer, then what would you have us do now? And I'm like, start grassroots organizing and building up the left wing outside of the Democratic Party. Yeah, but that'll take years. Yeah, so get started. Yeah. But what can we do now? I just told you what to do now. Yeah, but what can we do now? This. How could we stop Trump? You can't.
Have a meeting.
Because you should go back in time 20 years ago and build up a left. And
real left,
outside of the Democratic Party.
Look,
and that's what it's like, you can't do. It's like, oh, what can we do about climate change? Nothing. Why? Because we didn't do anything years ago.
Right.
But I want to do something.
Too late now.
I want to fly, but we can't do anything. Look, sorry.
At least nobody's, I can probably safely assume that nobody's booking tickets to Congo right now. So vacation to Congo, probably not a
off the
thing.
Table. Although that probably be a smart move. If you've been desiring to go to Congo, I bet prices are cheap at the hotels now.
Oh God, no!
No, I'm not even kidding. I bet it's like through the floor. Hotel Kinshasa, here I come.
Oh my Lord, no! As you guys know, I'm this time next week, I will be freezing my ass off in Iceland. I mean, the name tells you what to expect,
True.
Right?
Well, not necessarily. The word Greenland doesn't tell you what to expect.
That's true too. But in this case, Iceland tells you what to expect.
Especially in March.
It's still cold.
Oh,
right.
Oh, it's going to be cold. Yeah.
I mean, it is Arctic Circle, so I'm going there.
Did you check the temperature? What is it right now in Reykjavik?
Oh, today I don't know, but they say in March it'll be like in the teens to the low 30s.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So, okay. So I'm prepared for that. We've had a bad winter for this area, I guess. Bad, Robbie would roll his eyes, but
I'm all about going to trouble zones during, during when they're having problems. Everything's cheap. When I went to Russia is usually a very expensive place to visit.
Yeah.
But everything was so cheap during the sanctions. I mean, it was amazing.
Well, imagine how cheap your visit to Congo would be.
That's what I'm saying. And there's lots to see and do in Congo.
So yeah.
Plus, I can do war correspondency. I'm all about it.
Lord. No, Ted, because then you're going to bring back some weird disease that there is no vaccine for. So let's not have anybody travel to those places right now, especially given that everybody is vaccine skeptic right now. Like that's a thing here in the U.S. Mm-hmm. We're not in the WHO. Everyone's a vaccine skeptic.
I know when you see those dead bats on the ground, your mouth naturally starts to salivate. And you're like, but don't do it. Don't do it. Oh. I'm looking at you, Southern flyover country people. Stay away from those bats. Leave it be. Let it lie.
Ted,
get some eggs and don't think about chicken flu.
Don't forget, this is how all the bullshit around COVID started. Some Chinese people eating bat soup.
That's true. Yeah.
So here we go again. Some weird mysterious disease and some kids eating dead bats. Like, oh, okay. I'm going to say go ahead and look for the nearest level 4 laboratory somewhere in Africa. Can somebody find that? Because this is how it started 5 years ago, Ted. Some Chinese people eating weird shit.
Don't forget they also blamed the innocent pangolin.
Right, and then the poor pangolin was like,
he was minding his business, looking for ants, and then everybody's like, blaming him. They literally said that the bat had taken a dump on the pangolin. Talk about kinky, right? That's what they said. They said the bat must have been stored above the thing. I mean, it's ridiculous. Stored above the pangolin, as one does. When you have a pangolin cage and a bat cage, everyone knows the bat goes on top because he flies. And the pangolin goes beneath. Duh. This is like Martha Stewart would tell you this. And this is a home decor thing. So
obviously.
Write this down.
No.
And then then he took a poo and then
don't put the pangolin on top.
Somehow the bat poo transmogrified into pangolin COVID, and then the pangolin was eaten by the Chinese, who then none of this happened. Right?
None of that, right. And by the way, because this is a food safety course that we're giving, a crash course, the chicken and the pork are always below the beef. The beef is always on top.
So the cow can take a commercial nice vegan dump on top of them.
No, because it's all seriously.
It's all about. We come back full circle to our poo discussion.
Because my mom had a restaurant, right? So like we all had to take these food safety courses, and so really, when you store meats in the walk-in fridge or the walk-in freezer, the meat that goes on top, the top shelf has to be, at least according to California code, has to be beef, because if beef juice drips down to other things, you're not likely to die from salmonella or whatever. You're not going to get it, right? But if you get wet pork or wet chicken juice on your stuff, on your food, you will get salmonella, you will get really sick. So that's why pork and chicken are stored the lowest on the racks. Beef is the only one that could be up on top, according to California.
In your Chinese restaurant, where did you keep the pangolin meat and the bat meat?
It's in its own special basement freezer.
And then you can sometimes, if you run out of cat meat, you can borrow that from the Haitians next door.
No, we get them fresh off the alley. Just saying.
I got a Haitian dealer. Or from the ASPCA.
We had a Haitian dealer back there for the cat meat.
It's like, hey, man. It's like, we got them all. We have Siamese is in stock.
Wait, do they have a Caribbean accent?
Oh, maybe. No,
they would have a French accent.
No, they have they have a Cajun. They have a unique accent, which is not coming to me because I only had one cup of coffee this morning. Anyway, Is the PKK's war with Turkey suddenly over? For over 40 years, the guerrillas of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, known as the PKK, have waged war against Turkey in a conflict that has left over 40,000 people dead. On Thursday, the jailed leader of the group, Abdullah Öcalan, made a startling demand. The PKK ought to disarm and dissolve itself. Well, I mean, not like in acid, but like, organizationally. The Kurds, one of the world's largest stateless ethnic groups, comprise about a fifth of Turkey's population, and they're mostly in the southeastern part of Turkey along the Syrian, Iraqi, and Iranian borders. Formed in the 80s, the PKK, influenced by Marx, initially sought Kurdish succession, but then got more moderate, and they just wanted autonomy within Turkey. The PKK has attacked both military and civilian targets. It is officially considered a terrorist organization by the EU, the US, and of course, Turkey. Öcalan's call comes after talks between him, the Turkish government, and Turkey's main pro-Kurdish political party. It's unclear what the PKK would get in exchange for dissolving. Meanwhile, across the border, Kurdish militias tied to the PKK are active in northern Syria, where they fight ISIS with US support, and have carved out an autonomous region that Turkey views, understandably, with suspicion. Turkish troops and proxies have clashed with the Syrian Kurds, who seek autonomy within the new Syria. So I know that the subject of the Kurds came up recently here, but it's worth mentioning again. These are they're not like Muslims. They're not the same as Turks. They're their own discrete ethnic group, and they were marginalized, and they were offered a state at the end of World War I because Ottoman Turkey had been defeated,
right?
And so the Western allies who were victorious at the Paris Peace Conference at the Versailles Palace in 1919 said, "Don't worry, Kurds, we got you." But the conference dragged on for months, and there was a lot of drinking. I'm not even kidding. This is really actually what happened. And so literally the Kurds were told, like little boys, like Zelensky, to wait out in the hall, like while the big boys, and the cartographers sat down and like carved up the world. And that's how the borders of present day Palestine and Iraq and a lot of other countries were determined, Syria, Lebanon. And so the Kurds were probably like, okay, we'll wait patiently out here in the hall. And then finally, they were all ending the conference. This is really true. There's a book called Paris 1919 that can, and not to be confused with the John Cale album by the same name, where you can read all about it. And basically on the last day of the conference, the Kurds were like, "Hi guys, remember us?" And the Brits were like, "Oh, blimey, we forgot about you entirely. Our bad. It's like, we catch you next time." And here we are 106 years later, and they're still fucking stuck in the ass end of Syria, Turkey, and Iran.
Oh, that's fucked up. Well, I'm really, I was shocked to hear this news, to wake up to this news this morning that Öcalan said those things. I mean, I feel like it would be comments made under duress.
And by the way, I just want to correct myself. They are Muslim, but they are kind of like, they're from a certain school of
ethnicity-wise.
They're Shafi'is.
They're ethnicity-wise, they're different than Turks.
Yeah, they're not the same.
And Syrian Arabs. So it's
and they do have their little autonomous. They do have an actual autonomous zone up there in Iraq.
Don't you think this random, out of the blue announcement from their jailed leader that's on this like remote island in Turkey, that like they have him on like their version of Alcatraz, right?
Yeah.
Why would he, out of the blue, to the shock of everybody, say, "All right, PKK, we're done. Let's call it a day. Let's disarm and disband, and we're all good now"?
Well, it might be that some Turks got the electrodes up far enough up his sphincter to make it work.
It's got to have been done under duress. There's no way that this.
Yeah.
After 40 years of fighting this and being like,
he might just be old and tired. I mean, that happens. Look at Bernie Sanders. He's all old and tired and like he surrendered. And, I mean, that does happen. It's like the IRA, they sold out. They ended up closing up shop. They didn't get jack from the Brits. They got some seats in Parliament, like whoop-de-doo. They didn't get Northern Ireland back.
That's true. Yeah,
sometimes people just sell. They puss out. That's it.
Hey, there's a very Saddam vibe about this dude, Abdullah.
Oh, I know. Well, it's first of all, if I know it's hard to be an illegal migrant in the U.S. these days, but if you hid in this dude's eyebrows, Trump's goons could never find you. I mean, look at him.
It's true, but there's something very reminiscent of Saddam there, and yeah, you're right. He could just be just tired after 40 years of this shit.
and who knows how much torture. I mean, even if they don't torture him, it's torture, right? I mean, the guy's been in prison for all that time for political reasons. And, Turkish prison, I'm sure, is not the most fun.
Turkish Alcatraz, not even just regular prison.
Right.
Turkish Alcatraz.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, laying down arms, like this is, wow. But then what happens to the people? I don't know. The U.S. hung the PKK out to dry also. Let's not forget.
I mean, it's bullshit Syria that it's a terrorist organization. It's a resistance group.
Right. So, it's okay. Well, there's that. Let's see what happens here over the weekend.
All right.
Weird stuff.
Attorney General Pam Bondi released government documents related to the late financier and pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. But the first group of files have largely been circulating in the public domain anyway. There's nothing new here at all. A small batch of documents included copies of flight logs from Epstein's plane, the Lolita Express, which have long been available in court cases, and a heavily redacted photocopy of that address book compiled by Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Again, nothing new here at all. The Justice Department also released a blacked out list of masseuses and an evidence list showing entries for more than 150 items, including nude massages, massage tables, sex toys, and other items. There wasn't, there's cat toys, I don't know. There wasn't any indication whether the list was from Epstein's case, Maxwell's, or something else. Bondi had teased the documents during a Fox News appearance, saying, "Breaking news right now, you're going to see some Epstein information released." The DOJ said it was making the documents public. In the interest of transparency, Trump had promised when he was campaigning that he would do this, but the rollout of the documents turned out to be a giant wet fart. Some political commentators and influencers on the right were given these things called in binders that read the Epstein Files Phase 1. So it was very flashy, but really nothing, no there. Of course, Epstein, if you've been living under a large and heavy rock, was accused of sexually abusing dozens of underage girls in the early 2000s and served about 13 months in jail. He was then indicted on federal charges in New York in 2019, more than a decade after he struck that secret deal with the feds in Florida. And of course, he was found dead in his cell, supposedly in the least credible ruling of suicide that's ever been released. I mean, maybe he committed suicide, but probably not. In fact, I'm going to say 99.9999% not.
I'm going to go with no on the suicide.
He was at MDC, the Metropolitan Detention Center here in New York City. I have a friend who served in that same facility for about 5 years. And he said that there is, at that facility, a check every 8 minutes on every single cell.
But that's not this guy's.
That's not including people who are on suicide watch, which he was. And according to the official statement, he was no one checked on him for a couple of hours.
Yes.
Like, it didn't happen. Also, the cameras,
and the videos all blanked out.
Only in his block, right? Everywhere else they worked, and of course, prison guards make sure those cameras are working.
Well, the guards
because if they get
Amazon
attacked,
shopping.
They want to be seen, right, by their comrades, and rescued.
But Ted, one guard fell asleep. Mm-hmm. One guard was like Amazon shopping.
Yes. And allegedly allegedly the way Epstein offed himself was not like in, any usual way that humans kill themselves. He supposedly tied a sheet around his neck and then tied it to the side of the bed frame and then pulled hard against himself.
You're right. Crawling on the floor, pulling away from it.
Yeah, so the number of people who've killed themselves that way is probably zero. And,
precedent setting, this man.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that came close to me was, remember Michael Hutchins from InXS, who died during autoerotic asphyxiation gone wrong. But what happened there is he was in a hotel closet and he was kind of like tied himself up, but then he slipped. He slipped. Yeah, he was jerking off, and then he slipped, and then he couldn't get back, and there were signs of that. So that's an accident, right? I mean, that's like you can't just really, you can't strangle yourself that way. You just can't.
This one, and there was nothing high enough for him to be hung on. So given his height and everything, because what happens is
your instincts to. That's why people who hang themselves, like they kick the chair away, so that so then that's it. There's nothing they can do.
Yeah, well, we all know this is all weird about his supposed suicide, but now, I mean, the issue here is that Trump campaigned on this, and he's delivering transparency by delivering a 3-ring binder full of redacted pages.
Yeah.
The transparency. Yeah. And then did you see Ted, that some of these, I think do I have pictures? Some of the online influencers, these right-wing online influencers that were given the binders at the White House, like DC Drano, and I forget another, I don't know that world very well, like who's who, but some of the people that got these 3-ring binders then tweeted about it, and it was copy and paste. They tweeted the exact same thing by accident. Like, that's lazy tweet. Like, that means to me that the White House shared it with these particular influencers, and they're on the payroll, or at the very least, they're propagandists for this administration. If they're not on the payroll, then they're dumb and they're doing it for free. But at any rate, they tweeted the exact same thing, word for word. So I would say that those are directives coming from the White House press wing, right? Like the comms department. But it was a big nothing burger yesterday. Hundreds of pages of redacted nothing burger. So
yeah, it's really annoying
because it runs too deep. It's just I believe that there is so much dirty laundry on American politicians in this guy's black book that we're not going to. This is the new Kennedy file. Like we're not going to see it for another 100 years. Till literally every single person that could have possibly been involved in any possible way, including the maids, including, like the people that developed the photos, until this guy, DC Drano, until all these people are long gone and dead, I think is maybe when we'll start seeing some unredacted documents. But I think there's so much dirt there, that we're not going to see it in our lifetimes. So this was all for show. These big white binders. As Trump would say, he had binders full of women. This was not Epstein's binder full of women that we were expecting.
Well, of course, the thing about Trump is that he knew Epstein, but I don't think. I mean, we've heard all these stories about Trump, and obviously we know about Stormy Daniels, but sexual perversion doesn't really seem to be Trump's thing. I mean, Trump's bag seems to be power. And he likes to bone, but it's not like his primary motivation, That's why the P-tape thing never made any sense to me.
Right.
It's not really his
He's a known germaphobe, right? He's a known germaphobe like this. So none of that makes sense. But so this right here, I don't know. It was a big nothing burger, all for show. And we're just not going to see anything. All right, let's move on. Last thing.
Okay. And off we go.
This one's interesting.
This is interesting. So Andrew and Tristan Tate, who are, of course, those right-wing assholes, I think is the fairest way to put it, and self-described misogynists, arrived in Florida yesterday after being held in Romania for over 2 years on allegations of rape, trafficking, and money laundering. They deny the charges, but Andrew Tate has posted online that they made money by misleading women into thinking that they wanted a relationship as a means of coercing them into producing porn. Romania hasn't dropped the charges, and it's unclear how they got out and whether Trump influenced the decision to let them leave. However, earlier this month, U.S. officials urged Romania to lift the travel restrictions. Andrew Tate posted on X, "The Tates will be free. Trump is the president. The good old days are back." So obviously, maybe not Trump himself, but maybe Trump himself, but certainly the administration at bare minimum pulled some strings to get them out. And they're obviously never going to go back to Romania to face the music.
No, I would say that's correct. So these guys, okay. First of all, the Romanian justice system, yeah, Ted, I mean, given their elections and all can we really trust their system there? I mean, I'm not saying these guys are innocent, but I'm not saying that they're guilty either. I think the only thing these guys are guilty of is being kind of douchey, right?
Like, they're beyond kind of.
They're douchey.
I mean, it's kind of like if you didn't know what a douche was.
But that's not illegal.
It ought to be, but it's not.
It's not
Maybe
illegal,
in Romania it is. If so, we have a lot to learn from them.
That's true. Well,
could you imagine?
As far as I can tell,
if Trump by executive order makes douchery illegal, well, first of all, half of his cabinet, including himself, will be gone. But,
right. Yeah. So they would be in prison. So look, I think these guys, whatever people think of them, they are dual U.S. and British citizens. True. So they, I think we're fair. Like, I think it's fair to say that they were unfairly treated in the Romanian system, and they were not allowed to, repatriate and get their own attorneys and everything here. And, just
why should they be able to get their own attorneys here? They were living in Romania. They're accused of a violation of Romanian law. What?
They have home. I mean, remember, these are wealthy. They weren't just online influencers. Andrew Tate was a world-class kickboxer, professional athlete. He was a fighter. He's won millions of dollars in fights. So he has homes all over. He had homes.
Okay, but he was arrested in Romania for violating Romanian law.
Fine,
in Romania.
But the law was treating them as if they were guilty already, and supposedly
that's their system. That's like that's what happens in England. People don't know that. Like, or in France, you are considered guilty till proven innocent. Next time you get on a plane and go to Paris, think about that. It's true.
I also think the allegations against them are whatever you think of them, douchebag or not, I also think the allegations against them are kind of bullshit. Because
I kind of thought that too, to be honest.
It's unfair. Like, who's to say these women aren't just jilted women? As people know, I am so not a hashtag Me Too person. In fact, I'm against the Me Too movement. I think it's dangerous, and it has opened the door for saying believe all women, and all women cannot be trusted. All people cannot be trusted. And the types of women, I would say, that would be prone to, I don't know, hanging out, falling in love with these guys?
I'm shocked. Are you a skankophobe?
I'm not saying I'm a skankophobe. I mean, look at these guys.
Skanks are people or not, too. Believe all skanks.
Douchebag or not, these guys are douchebags. Young.
Those are douchebags. I know a douchebag when I see one. That's a douchebag.
Young, good looking, and wealthy. Right? Like that's
AKA douchebag.
That is gonna attract all different types of women, but there's a specific kind of woman that goes that way. And I'm going to say it's
a digger of gold is what you were saying.
I'm going to say a digger of gold with big shovels and big cans, and the mentality of, let's say, a Lauren Boebert type that will just cut you right, like out of nowhere. You could be sleeping and just So, given all of those, life experiences, I will say, being around a lot of different types of people, I'm going to say that the case against them was shaky to begin with from, I would say, jilted lovers who realized that he wasn't going to wife them up. I mean, ultimately, like, to me, that's my impression of it. I could be very wrong. And if it's proven in what could be a unfair case, if it's proven in trial that somehow,
well, but they were accused of that. Basically, the accusation was that they lied to people and said, like,
but can it be proven?
You, I'll be with you always.
Here's the thing.
Yeah. And it's like, if you really love me, suck my dick on camera, right? I mean,
right. So if you're some dumb girl you can't call that coercion if you just thought, oh, well, he said he's going to marry me, so I better, bang it out on camera. Like, then I don't see how that's coercion is my point, is unless you were drunk, intoxicated, or whatever, there's no forced imposition on you. You did that voluntarily.
Drunk and intoxicated is probably part of the equation here, though, Manila.
I don't know. That's the thing. We don't know. So I would like to see more evidence on this other than the women saying, well, he coerced me because he told me he loved me and he was going to marry me. So I banged it out on camera for him. And I, like,
maybe
give me a break, sister. Like, the whole Me Too thing was a means for women to not have a mea culpa and to not say, oh, I'm stupid and I fucked up and I look dumb now, so I'm going to call this guy a rapist. So I'm not saying that's what happened here. I don't know what happened here. Right. But the allegations seem weak, and I don't have a lot of faith in the Romanian system. I mean, given what just happened with their elections. So if they can't get their elections straight, what makes you think they wouldn't be unfair to some D-bag and his almost twin brother, that are these misogynist online influencers? Just saying.
I
don't know. That's what I think. That's my impression of it. I wish everybody well here, but skank lives matter. I agree.
We do.
So unless these women were held at gunpoint or were drugged up or were whatever, like, sorry, sister, like, you got to do the walk of shame.
Okay.
Simple.
All right. Do you think the Tates will be honoring today's economic blackout?
Oh, yes. I'm sure they won't be shopping at Target today. All right. Last thing we'll do.
What are we doing here?
Few minutes on this one.
Okay.
About the federal firings.
Oh, yeah. All right, so here we go. The Trump administration has sparked controversy with aggressive moves to reshape the federal government and military. The budget director has ordered federal agencies to plan mass layoffs targeting thousands of workers at agencies like the IRS, FEMA, and Social Security Administration. Aligning with Trump and Musk, over 20,000 federal employees have been fired. Well, maybe not so fast, prompting lawsuits from unions and outrage from affected workers. Now, a federal judge has ruled that pretty much all of those firings were illegal and everyone can come back to work. So I guess this goes to the Supreme Court now. Simultaneously, Trump executed a dramatic purge of the Pentagon, firing the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General C.Q. Brown, and 5 other top officers, aiming to make military leadership loyal to him. And he plans to expel transgender soldiers, airmen, and sailors. Critics, including lawmakers, warn that this politicizes the military, with some alleging a rejection of woke policies. Courts are blocking other initiatives like changes to birthright citizenship, which is certainly unconstitutional. Public and political backlash is growing. There are some protests across the country, particularly at Republican congressmen's town halls. Public and political backlash is continuing, and Trump continues forward nevertheless, framing the chaos as a drive to achieve efficiency. So we will ask ourselves very quickly here, is Trump in danger of going too far? I would say yes. The question is, has he already gone too far? And I think he's getting close. The question is, will the deep state strike back in terms of a Supreme Court ruling that puts
the empire
kibosh?
always strikes
I mean,
back.
the federal court ruling was absolutely withering. He basically was like, there is no world
this is
under
judge,
which Trump can do these things. It's impossible. He said that, like, you can't be fired by an entity other than the one that you work for, which when you think about it, that's true. If I work for the Department of the Interior, then my boss, the Department of the Interior, the Secretary of the Interior can fire me, but the Secretary of Agriculture cannot. And nor can Elon Musk.
Or a non-governmental employee like Doge, who's a consultant.
Which is just like, it's kind of like it just, I mean, basically you could just ignore, if you're a federal employee, like anything that comes from Doge, you could just be like, fuck off. I'm not answering these questions. I don't need to. There's no requirement to, unless, but of course, if your boss says, I want you to answer Doge's questions, then that becomes your order. Yeah.
Right. That's a different, narrative once your direct supervisors get involved. However, I will tell you this from my many trusted sources in the federal government, what we're seeing from those supervisors at various agencies here in DC is a failure to lead, a failure to put their foot down and protect their workers. And these are the people that are considered the SES level, right? They're a senior executive. That's what their title is, senior executive level. These are career bureaucrats that are in these nice cushy jobs that basically oversee, like a whole big teams, right? Like it could be anywhere from a team of 5 to a team of 50. It varies in scope, but I can tell you from all my sources that there is a true failure of leadership, that these people are not standing up to Doge. If you were a good boss, Ted, and I've led a team, I've protected my team from, like, my little show team, right? Where I felt that, certain managers had been at RT America had been unreasonable and unfair to my team. Like, that's my team. I'm going to step in and I'm hold on here. Like,
yeah, you have to go to the mat for your team.
You do. If you,
of course, middle managers, and they're intimately, they have a close sexual relationship with cowardice, and that's their kink, right?
And that's exactly what's happening there.
Yeah.
Is they're basically upper middle management. They're not quite, they're called executives, but they're not the secretary, obviously, right? Or the deputy secretary. There's so many of these jobs, these rankings in the government. So an SES is a career bureaucrat that is a manager level, that they manage managers, right? And they have no fucking guts, Ted. They're all aimlessly right now wandering around being like, I don't know, what should we do? Don't answer Elon Musk. No, wait, maybe you should answer Elon Musk. There's really so much confusion because none of these people have the fucking guts one way or the other.
I'm driving through a tunnel. I can't hear you, Elon. Call me back.
I mean, I've seen and heard stuff in real time that these middle managers really just have no desire to put their own necks out there in order to even protect their team or conserve or prevent chaos from breaking out from underneath them, Ted. They have no fucking appetite for it. And I think that's where the chaos is. You expect the chaos to come from Elon Musk. He is a fucking agent. He's a broker of fucking chaos. That's who he is.
Chaos are us.
He is. So if you want to make sure that people aren't fucking panicking and literally houses hitting the market immediately after that sudden first layoff that is now probably getting reversed because of this judge that we're looking at here, this federal judge. I mean, lives have been turned upside down in the past 2 weeks here in DC. And I've seen people that I know, friends and sources alike, that the one consistent theme I'm hearing is that there is no direction of leadership from their immediate supervisors.
Because they're all scared.
They're all fucking scared because all they care about is protecting their own necks and their own interests from getting fired by Doge, because they don't know how legal any of this stuff is. I mean, there's a lot of conversation being done behind closed doors.
They kind of do know it's not legal.
I think so too, and I think, but
like it's obviously not. It's obviously not legal. Yeah,
I agree. But the point is, they don't have any fucking guts to stand up for all their workers. So that's my biggest observation that I've taken away the last 2 weeks, and I have been observing closely. But not only that, but then you have these what are they called? Unions. These unions that are the only ones kind of sticking up for the workers. Mm-hmm. But they have to fight Doge and the government in court in order, they can't make anything happen on a day-to-day basis. They can't tell the workers, okay, unless they tell everyone to go on strike and people do it. And I don't know what happens then. That's really the only recourse I see that the workers might actually have an impact by saying, oh, you want to fire us? Well, fuck you. We're going to go on strike tomorrow. And let's see what happens with the fucking federal government now. Let's see if your parks get cleaned up. Let's see if your Medicare checks get sent out, your Medicaid. Like, say, fuck you, Doge. Fuck you, President Trump. We're going on strike. So unless you're hearing the unions really toughen up their stance, there's going to be complete chaos here in DC for the next several weeks as Doge tries to overturn this judge's ruling, and they're going to file appeals, as you know, and they're going to try to find loopholes. And the other thing, Ted, before we go, is that when Doge is doing this all wrong, right? Elon Musk is doing this all freaking wrong. Him firing, or who knows if they're actually fired, but whatever. For the sake of argument, we'll call it firing all of the younger, non-tenured people, right? 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago. Mm-hmm. He's complaining that the U.S. system is so mucked up and nothing can get done and there's so much waste and fraud and abuse. Well, who the fuck does he think did it? Does he think it's the new 25-year-old that's now a systems engineer at HHS? Do you think he's the one that did that, or she's the one that did that?
That's
no,
a good point.
It's
getting rid of the provisional employees is exactly the wrong way to go.
It's the opposite.
And they're doing the work. They're paid the least.
That's right. It's the people that have been fucking entrenched that are at the SES level, that have been there, that have literally pushed forward the broken systems. And I'm talking literal in the terms of like computer systems, operating systems, spreadsheets of stuff, broken spreadsheets, Ted. Literally, I've seen this. I've seen it. I've myself have seen them. Broken, unworking spreadsheets that crank out that had the wrong formulas put into them, that crank out the wrong fucking answer.
Well, they can be edited.
But they don't, because it's easier not to, because the scale and scope of how many groups have used this one broken spreadsheet that have been spread out through, let's say, the FDA, right? It's been proliferated for so long. People are operating off the wrong numbers for so fucking long. It's entrenched. And those are the managers. These are the people that I'm talking about now, these bureaucrat SES people that have been there for 25 years, that are close to retirement. They're the ones trying to cling on the most to their jobs. And Elon is firing the fucking young people that can fix it. That he's an idiot. He's firing all the wrong people. If you want to fire mass loads of people, you fire the people that have been there 20 plus years.
Be there longer than a month and
observe,
study up and see who's good and who's not good. It's like any organization. You know how it is. There's a bell curve. There are some people who are truly great, many of whom are being underutilized. There's some people who are inexplicable morons who shouldn't be there. And there's most people are somewhere in the middle, right? That's just how it is. And I don't have to explain the rest about how you should proceed, but I mean, that's not what happened here. I mean, basically you saw his chainsaw. I mean, it's so like, stupid.
I had just left.
I guess this means USAID can be reconstituted, right? Government agencies that are being completely unwound. I guess I don't think that they can be destroyed without a congressional vote either, because they were created by an act of Congress.
Right. So I don't know if USAID, how the dismantling, I mean, if you...
Or the EPA.
Defund it? I don't know. That part I don't know, but I feel like
Congress can defund it. Congress can eliminate it. They can reorganize it. They can merge it into another agency.
But the workers that were there...
But that hasn't happened. I mean, Congress hasn't done...
tenured, I don't know.
Under Trump, Congress has basically not done anything. There's not been a single piece of substantial legislation that's gone
you know what?
That has...
There is a caveat, Ted.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know about USAID, but what I do know is that the government, the administration, which is different. Let me put a distinction between the two, right? The government and the administration are two separate things.
Sure.
And the administration, by law, cannot dismantle a statutory agency or organization or whatever. So if it's statutory, meaning that it's written into law to exist by Congress.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if USAID is a statutory agency.
It is. Mm-hmm. I checked into it.
So, okay. So that's where that thing comes into play there for USAID. But you certainly cannot suddenly fire everybody at a statutory agency like HHS or
you can't
DOD.
You can't just do a bloodbath like that. Yeah.
Right, like DOD, or these are statutory agencies that are written into law. So anything that's a subsidiary of those, like let's say the NED, like it's supposed to be a we can cut off payment to those people because they're not, they're not a statutory, they're not a legitimate agency. They're supposed to be a nonprofit. There's whatever. But we should pay our bills because there are $2 billion worth of government outstanding debt to outside agencies. That's also worth pointing out. $2 billion.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't paid these nonprofits or whatever, and sometimes just private businesses that do things like, let's say, catering, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's $2 billion worth of outstanding payments still yet to be paid, and these private contractors and whatever groups are all coming after the Trump administration to say, pay your damn bills. I got my own bills to pay. So it's freaking chaos here in DC, Ted. Freaking chaos.
And I think the problem, so right now, I would say, it's not a problem for Trump. I mean, right now, because it's like, people sent him, even Democrats know that he's a disruptive force. That's why he won the election. He has a mandate to be a disruptive force. But it can't go on. I mean, disruption is one thing, chaos is another. And when people, I foresee trouble when, for example, all the fired IRS agents means that there's going to be a delay in processing tax refunds. That's going to be a problem for Trump. There's going to be when people are applying for student loans and they're not going through, so that their kids have to drop out of college this fall because they can't register for class. That's going to be a problem. Right. When there's a that mystery virus comes from Congo and it arrives in
inevitably
Nebraska, it arrives in Nebraska. And the EP and the CDC has been gutted, and we're no longer members of the WHO. That's going to be a problem. So I can't point to the specifics. Well, I just did, but I can't point to which one will blow up in his face. But it's going to happen. And I mean, to me, the real question is whether there will be an opposing force that's able to capitalize on that. Now, right now, there isn't. There is no Democratic Party. The Democratic Party doesn't exist. It has vanished into the air. Now, maybe they can reconstitute themselves in time for the midterms next year. But I think Trump can pretty much run roughshod over the entire country and the entire government for the next year, and nothing's going to fucking happen.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I think it's got to be
the only thing
the
that could
grassroots
change
that you said is dead.
Yeah, I was going to say the only thing that could change is that, like, if there's massive rioting, cities burn.
Well,
But that's
I'm
not
going
going
to
to
say
happen.
walkouts. I'm going to say all of these unions for the workers
They're not
within
gonna.
federal government.
They're going to worry about being fired because they're government
I know.
employees.
That's
Taft-Hartley
the
Act
thing.
is going to be declared. It'll be like PATCO, the air traffic controllers under Reagan in '81. Same thing.
The only like the don't buy at big box stores Friday today, right? Being what it is bullshit.
Yeah.
But what will have an immediate impact is if those workers unions said, you know what? We're fed up with Elon fucking around with us. No more. Fuck around and find out. Monday, nobody goes to work. Nothing gets processed.
Agreed.
And that will immediately send shockwaves immediately.
But we don't have an organization. We don't have a left in this country. Without an organized left, ain't nothing going to happen.
And the AFL-CIO has come out on the side of the workers. Obviously, they're trying to trying to push their weight against Doge, and the AFL-CIO, as you know, backed Donald Trump this last go round, which was a shocker. But if Trump is supposed to be the working man's president now, right? Because the world is topsy-turvy. Most federal workers are regular people. They're not rich people, right? Like they're millions of people across this country, and they get paid accordingly based on where they live. So if you live in Boulder, Colorado, or if you live in Boise, Idaho, you're getting paid scale for that area, right? They're regular people. They're not rich people. And now you're suddenly, it's just everything is wrong. Elon is going about this all wrong. I think Trump, being the businessman, should know better. But here's another caveat to all this, Ted. I'm hearing, and I saw at least one small article about this on, I think, Wired magazine. They are calling Trump the figurehead president, and that Stephen Miller is the prime minister. That's what people are likening this to.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate.
So that's just something to think about. We got to go. I'll be back on air at 2:00 for my Friday wrap. I don't think I'm going to do a very long show today because I have a lot of obligations of stuff I got to get done before I travel next Thursday.
Right.
We'll have producer Robbie changing his schedule around to fill in.
And I will be on in just about half an hour with Scott Stantis on the DMZ America podcast live. So tune in that. It'll be on. It's on Rumble and YouTube, of course. Not on X, but we will also, and we'll post the RSS feed later in the day.
I'm only on Rumble for my own reasons.
Yeah, you should be on YouTube too.
No, I can't. I cannot.
You've been cock blocked.
I've been
purged.
Or
whatever the equivalent is for you.
They vagina blocked me.
Vagina.
Vagina. I've been vagina blocked.
Vagina.
All right. So that's going to do it for right now. Ted's taking a 30-minute break. Be back on the DMZ. I'll be back at 2 p.m. Eastern with my Friday wrap. So I guess we'll just see you in a little while, folks. Please come on back.
See you Monday. And in half an hour. Just keep DMZ. Yeah. Check my feed at Ted
and Manila channel.
Yeah. All right.
Adios, amigos. See you then.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.